welcome back. Today I'm doing a video in a new series. I've called it Chess Trivia, and this is where it's something else to do with chess. So what we're going to look at today is one of my all-time favorite episodes, Gambit, in one of my all-time favorite TV series, Blake 7. So obviously Blake 7, Doctor Who, those sort of TV shows very popular in the 70s and 80s. And the reason why we're looking at this is there's a very dramatic chess sequence in this episode and in series 2. By all means, go and watch it first if you haven't seen it, or maybe this will just be a little bit of a reminder. Now, I've included a couple of little clips in here. I hope the BBC doesn't get annoyed with me. I'll just show you. I've actually got the full box set. There's 4 series. There's complete series 2, and Gambit is one of the episodes in series 2. And the gist of it is, you can see that there is 2 chess games we're going to try and reconstruct, because that's what always puzzled me about this. There's 2 games, not quite too sure what the games are, and you don't get full information. And I was just the effort in this video is to try and reconstruct them. You can see that there is Thrylce, the guy who looks a bit like, I don't know, Isaac Newton, and Deep Roy playing a very Mr. Sin style, evil, cackling laughter guy. Definitely not a mischievous Oompa Loompa in this episode. And then Villa, aka Michael Keating. He passed away in April, so RIP to Villa. And the idea of the episode, spoilers, is that you play chess, and if you lose the game, you get killed, which is what happened to Thrylce. And then in the second game, Villa plays Deep Roy and manages to draw and saves his life. So that's the general idea behind it all. And as I say, the 2 games in it are absolutely fascinating, and also gets back to perhaps who the writer is. Robert Holmes, very well known as one of the major authors of the 70s for Doctor Who, and he often has puzzles and in particular chess in some of his stories. And this is from Blake 7, but the funny other link has sort of investigated this for too much time on, is Deep Roy. He was in a very classic story by Robert Holmes, The Talons of Weng Chiang, with Tom Baker. Okay, so that's the intro. So let's get on to what actually was going on. As I say, you were playing these games of chess and you would die if you lost the game. And the way they picture it is it's a interleaving of watching people push buttons, which is supposed to be playing the board game, and then snapshots of the screen. You can't see everything, so I never knew what the games were. I remember watching this and some weird opening and think, well, what the hell's going on? So let's have a look. So what I'll do is I'll include a couple of clips here of sort of the way the sort of the game was dramatized. And then there were screenshots of the chessboard in between, which we just might quickly have a look at. Right, so here we go. That's in the first game. Do the first game first. And I'm led to believe by the AI that this is either Commodore 64 or VIC-20, Sargon 2. I couldn't actually see a perfectly matching image. You can see that stylistically it's somewhat similar. Maybe somebody has a better version. So we're talking a chess computer from the late 70s. And this is just the display screen. And I guess they're just obviously got nothing to do with what they're doing in the movie. Presumably they just go through a game and take pictures of it at certain points to put into the shots. So, and you can see it's got a few typical things there. It shows you, I think tick might mean start of the game, and 0-1 is first move, and up arrow there is white to move. And we'll just flick through the different screenshots we see. A few there, still the first position. Okay, so now both people have played e4, and it's white to move again. Right, c3, knight c6. Okay, so we've got a Vienna. You might think Vienna Gambit. No, g3. This sort of went off piste straight away. You start searching for this position, you're not going to find many games. Right, bit of a joke opening. But understand why it's done that way later, because it's like kind of like a reverse Vienna Gambit, which is the clue to where we're going to get to. Have a look. Accepted. Check. And you can see how it's like every second move there. The queen check on h5, and the king is moved to e7. d4, opening up the position. Bishop g5 check. Block with the knight. All right, so this is this thing. So we're there, and then suddenly we're there, right? Now in between, you can see there's knight f3's been played, queenside castle. Also, the pawn has taken the knight on c3, and then the pawn on b2, and the king has gone to b1. Right, so that's a sequence of moves which we're missing, but you can reconstruct it in your mind's eye. In fact, that basically was a sequence of moves. Now we continue. Move there, bishop check. King takes the other bishop. Now this a4 move, it's kind of odd. I take c2. And then this was another big sequence of things. You can see what's happened is the queen's gone on to basically gone queen h4 check, and later on the knight's moved, and the queen's taken the black queen, and then the bishop moved, and the queen's taken the rook. That explains the queen. There's actually 7 moves in between that sequence. The king's moved across the corner. The knight's taken the rook. A few pieces of piece changed in the middle of the board. And we have this position now, which what a king match. And then now coming to, so actually the thing is that this game, we'll get back to it later. Thrylce dies and gets electrocuted or whatever, right? But even he's actually, we'll look with the computer when we find the game. It's actually, he's very close to, he should have been able to draw the position. Because now checkmate, and this is where we have a cackling deep Roy, which maybe I'll include. Yep. Right, so this is the first game, and that's a sequence of moves. Now, actually, I'm pretty sure that a strong player, IM James, whatever, they'd recognize this position instantly, and they'd know exactly which game we're talking about. Now, I didn't know that. So what we're going to do now is go through a bit of my process to try and find out what this game was. And in fact, I've seen this position before, but it's different. So work out why. And then once I'd seen it, I said, yeah, now I remember that. So it's basically all about the king march and the 2 bishops corralling the opposing king. Right. So what we're going to do now is switch across to my capture screen. And what we'll do is we'll just go through my steps of using Scoutfish to try and find positions which are like this. So what we'll be looking for is this final position. Second, it kind of look like a real game. And the final thing is it starts off as a Vienna Gambit. So they're the little clues where we're looking at in solving this. Let's call it a mystery. Let's go to the capture screen, and then I'm not going to do the whole thing, but we'll just have a look and show you that the first thing we can do is search for the fen now, or subfen. So basically, subfen is just make sure you find those pieces in those positions. So I search for this, and you can see that we're looking for a king on the 6th rank, black king on the 6th rank, a black pawn on the square b2, and the white king in front of that pawn. So very, very unusual position, and you can search for it. You don't get a Vienna game, and you don't get something that looks like that game. But what you do, I'm going to include this game because I found it very interesting.
Why even?
Why not? And then we'll go back to this, but this has got nothing to do with it. I found this game at Book-Heidenheimo, and that does seem to be a very well-known and fun miniature. So let's have a look at this game. Is it a Vienna? No, it's not a Vienna. Well, it's not the symmetrical Vienna with a Vienna Gambit, so it's kind of interesting. We go through it in too much detail. Wow, queen sack. Check. It's actually totally winning for white at this stage. Check. Now, it actually thinks picking up the queen is the best idea, but of course, let's castle queenside with check. And then come back. King c6 lasts slightly longer. But anyway, obviously thought attack the bishop's good. Check. And there's a whole bunch of moves you could play there. He took the bishop. Check. So you can't play king takes c3 because it's bishop d2 mate. So that's a little bit longer if you go there. A couple of lines I showed. But anyway, check. Horses in the corner. Check. Get a little nice continuation. Check. Nice continuation. Checkmate. Isn't that a great game? Right. Anyway, so that came up. And you can see that had something like that formation. Or I might have searched it differently without the pawn on the b2 square. Right. So let's go back to what we're trying to find out. And I haven't got it here, but actually, so what I said is maybe somebody's being a little bit sneaky and a bit of obfuscation, and they're trying to hide what the game is. So you do the same search for the white side. Unfortunately, I deleted it, and you come up with the answer, right? And the game is, if you look here, is steal NN. Sometimes NN is not NN. It's a player Ross, possibly. And sometimes it's a win and sometimes a draw, and people say maybe it's not a real game and maybe just analysis is a part of the game. All those sorts of things considered. We've looked at this game before because it is a fantastic king hunt game. I can't remember one of my early videos. I covered it, and other people have covered it too. But let's have a look at how this game goes and see if it fits the model of what we are trying to show. Okay, that's great. And you can see the difference, right? This is the key, right? In the Blake 7 game, they played this G3 move, which basically just flipped colors. It was totally irrelevant for the rest of the game, right? So now we just visualize everything back to front. Vienna Gambit. You see this king run, king march, back to front, take, check, piece, bishop moves, pin pawn. We'll have a look at this in the game, but check. He could have taken it, moved the corner, hold the pawn. Hold the pawn again, check. This is a nice square, check, nice square, check. Take the bishop, a5. Now we take the pawn. Now this is where we came to, we'll see it again, we'll go through it again, where we came to a situation where we couldn't quite follow the moves very well, and this is the actual moves. Queen check along the 4th rank, or 5th rank in this case. Knight interposes, attacks the queen's offsetting. Check. Move the king to the side. Now queens are off. Move the bishop. Queen's attacked by the rook, and you can see we've got this skewery thing. Queen takes rook. King into the corner, threatening knight to c6 mate. Take the knight off. Leave the knight there. It's pinned. Hold the knight. Take the knight with the pawn. Now block the diagonal. Back. Take the other rook. And then this is given as a draw by perpetual. The whole of that position's winning. But anyway, there's two versions. One is a draw by perpetual. I mean, in this position, play rook c8, bishop c8, and you draw. The move played, very reminiscent of what's going to happen in the Blake 7 game, is that now it's checkmate because you can't. e6, mainly. Right, so we found the game. Steal, NN. Okay, so now let's go back to what we know about Thrylce-Klute game. So this is those, if you remember, these were the moves we flicked through, and that's the final position we ended up on. So this is the game. What I'll do is I'll put this little set of games on Lichess. This is the position. Let's go. Vienna. This is switches moves, the sneaky tactic to switch moves, so that I couldn't find the game straight away. It's now just a Vienna Gambit with white has next move G3. Check. Got to move the king. Open the center. Leave the D pawn. Check again. Got to interpose, otherwise you lose queen, castle, queen side. That is nice. And the pawn takes the knight. Knight to F3. Check. Move the king to corner. Knight moves up. Bishop C5. Holds the pawn. Rook check. King starts moving. Check. King starts moving. Check. King takes the bishop. A5. So this is the sort of the key big gap in the sequence of moves we had looked at. As this move, and then it jumps forward 7 moves. I did this. I spent way too much time on this. I did this before I found the steel game, to be honest. 7 moves by white, 7 moves by black. I've missed the move F2, F3, and then F3, F4, which is the way it goes in the game. We'll see that again. So basically, you got 7 moves. Queen H4, queen takes rook, F2, F3, F3, F4, knight to D2, and knight takes on E4 from the white side. And the black side takes the rook on E1, he moves the king across to A3, he moves the knight onto E4, which is taken, and pawn takes back, and he goes bishop takes the pawn on F5, and the bishop drops back to E6. That is 7 moves each, which kind of, we've got the move order exactly right, but it's basically the steel game in reverse. Now, that's the position. Move back, grab the knight, take the rook, queen takes rook, so now it's 2 bishops versus a lot of material, check. And this is the position we looked at before. It's a draw. It's going to be a draw by repetition. And the drawing moves, it was rook or bishop to c8 when we had the steel version. And in this version is rook or bishop to c1. And it will be a draw. But of course, Thrylce got electrocuted, so he played that move. King a2 is the key. And then I think the position we had, just quickly go back to it. I missed it. That's basically take pawn. And then now bishop to b3 is checkmate. Okay, so that's the steel game. It's a beautiful game. It's an amazing game. And as I said, there's a lot of questions about the actual result. things. Anyway, so that's good. Now, obviously, somebody who knows chess very well, who knows this game, and was smart enough to say, let's make it a little bit more interesting by playing g3 for white and making black the winner, right? So, because obviously the rules of this 5-second move speed chess is that you need to draw or beat Klute, who's the deep right. So they had to switch the colors for that situation. Okay, so that is the first game.
Orac will give you the moves.
But the Klute isn't a computer.
Right, now, then, what about the second game? Let's have a look at what we can see on the second game snapshots. Okay, so here's the first leader. There's a little, I thought it was a Taimanov. It's actually a Velimirovich attack.
Bishop takes pawn. Check.
Queen on e2, and you only get in the position after 12 moves. So there's lots happened. So, you know, what's going on here? Why do they do that? Obviously, they couldn't be showing every move. That's fine. And then let's have a look at how the game progresses. b6 by black, f4 by white, bishop to b7 by black, rook to f1 by white, rook to c8 by black. Okay, so this is fairly, you got to say it's fairly standard Sicilian maneuvers. And then this is the problem. That's 15 moves, 19 moves, and now we can see that we have got a. If you have a look, the bishop's gone. The knight's moved to d5, and you look at okay, so what's happened there? We've seen a double bishop sack, and it's forced to draw. Right? We don't normally see that double bishop. If the rook was on, for instance, f3, perhaps the double bishop sack would have been able to force checkmate, but it's not. So double bishop sack forcing a draw. Which what Villa wants. That's it, right? So, and then basically we have to think about what happened in between those two things. And you can see, you look at it, it was, so it's white to move, so bishop to d3, knight to d5, bishop takes h7 check, king takes h7, queen to h5 check, king back to g8, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and the queen checks, and then that's the moves, right? So we've got a opening position after 12 moves, a few move sequences, and then the final position. So how are we going to find that game? And by the way, I'll just say that this is where that blooper, I'll just play it now, where they'd obviously recorded Orac saying bishop takes pawn check, but they didn't actually show, they showed it much earlier in the game, and it would have been that bishop takes h7 check much later on. Okay, so let me close that, go back to our capture screen and go back to my code. Okay, so we know what we're looking for, and we do another scout fish search. It's not the search here. You can see this is a search for that first game, queen h5, check, king e7, all that sort of stuff, right? One of the ways I sort of found that position as well, right? So in this case, I just searched for double bishop sacrifice. So bishop takes h7, king takes h7, queen h5, king back to g8, and bishop takes g7. And then I've done that before, previous video on double bishop sack, and then this time the difference is we're looking for positions which are then a draw. Obviously, when I was doing double bishop sacrifice, I was looking for wins. And you know what? You do that, you come up with this game. Not a very well attested game. Actually, according to the database, it's John Nunn versus Villa-Klute in, I think it's some European championship, played in 1979, February 1979. And let's go through. In fact, it's exactly the game. Let's just go through it, right? Okay, all fairly standard. I think it's the first position we came across, then b6, f4, bishop b7, rook f1, rook c8, bishop back to d3. That what I said the missing move was bishop d3, knight moves up, check, check, takes, check, and now got a perpetual check. Okay, that was the game. That is the game. And this is where it gets a little bit quirky, because if we go now across to the Wikipedia, there's a page about production dates, and what I don't get is that this was broadcast on the 20th of March 1979. That game I just showed you, which is supposed to be a game February of 1979. So, I mean, maybe in between there was a month where they did the studio filming and they had that game. And I mean, I've got a bunch of in chess and format on my shelf, and I think the thing is that you wouldn't have known about that game unless you actively following chess, or you knew John Nunn, or you were John Nunn. So I am going to have to do a little bit of investigating on what's going on there. I mean, it's obviously it's a fabulous game, it's an interesting game. So they've chosen two very good games, and I think there's a lot of smarts gone into picking both of those games, right? I think, you know, generally somebody knows the Steel game, and then somebody also knows a very recent game of John Nunn's. Right, okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. So that was just my little bit of chess trivia. I really loved this episode. Totally camp, funniest episode ever. Great episode. The guy who plays Crantor does an amazing job. And just I really always pondered what exactly those two games were. And now I've kind of worked it out and where they came from. So if you got this far, hope you enjoyed that. And thank you very much for watching.